Hey guys, Josh back here with some more videos. Today we're going to do a video. I get asked a lot on how to sharpen and maintain my edges on my knives, and today I'm going to show how to do that. So let's get started. What I have here on the bench is called a strop. For those of you that don't know, it's a couple pieces of leather glued down to a 2x3 block of wood, and that's all it is. And then it has this green rouge compound that you can get off any knife maker's supply internet, or a lot of hardware stores have it. And then I have, for the testing of the edges afterwards, I have some printer paper and a couple pieces of magazine paper. So here's the knife. This is my blade I've been using for a while. It needs a little maintenance, and so we're just going to clean it up a little. Now, to be clear, this is to clean up the edge and refine the edge, not to resharpen the edge. Okay, so there's a big difference between the two, and I'll talk about it a little bit. So first off, take your compound, and you should already have this already worked in, but I always add a little bit more right before I get started. It gives it a little bit gives it more compound. Work that in a little bit. Okay. Now, when you're sharpening, you can go towards the edge or away from your edge. I tend to do away from the edge for both, but when you're stropping, you only go away from the edge. Okay. And the way I do this, I don't do this, but the way you can do this to get started: lay the edge or the blade flat on the strop, tilt it up just until you have the same angle that you sharpened at, and with light pressure, not a lot of pressure, you're going to pull down and away, keeping contact with that. Okay, same thing, tilt it up until you hit the edge, light pressure, down and away. Okay, and you're going to repeat that process until you start to get it. Now, there's another technique which is what I do, from tip to heel, and it goes like this. Start from the tip and start working back, and once again, not doing a whole lot of pressure. Okay, now you can come back here. I know that I've been using this part of the blade a lot more. It feels already pretty stinking sharp, but I'll come back here and do a little bit more work, just nice light strokes. Now, since we're not sharpening, we're more polishing, it's not removing metal that fast. You don't always have to alternate sides every time. Sometimes I'll just work on one side for a little while, as long as you're working in. Okay, and that should be more than enough. Okay, so that's about the edge I like. Now, don't get crazy. A lot of guys really put a big title on their sharpness, mainly hair popping sharp. That's the one they always want to have. And while you want the knife to be as sharp as possible, that's not always applicable, especially when you're doing hard use. Usually those edges go away. So here's just a little test on the printer paper. Okay. Now, I do these curls because if the edge is straight, it'll allow me to do the curls. Okay. This gives you a basic idea of the kind of edge that you have. All right. Magazine paper is just a little bit finer edge test. Now remember, the knife is a knife cuts with drawing. Some knives have a different kind of edge that you can do a lot of push cutting, but that's the way my knives cut, because draw cuts are about 90% of your work. So if you can't see, that's sharp. All right. So that's stropping the edge. Real quick, I'll talk about the sharpening process. If you're not good with stones, you should either practice with stones, which is the only way I think hand sharpening you should do, either Japanese water stones, or there's a lot of good diamond stones, and practice. If you're not good with that and you want a little bit faster method, but you have to be, learn the technique and be careful. I promote getting like a little 1x30 Harbor Freight grinder, and then you get the belts for it. And I do the same thing on my 2x72. It's no different. I just run the speed real slow. I cut the edge in that I want with a 120 grit ceramic. Make sure that it's a nice good belt. 120 grit ceramic. Then I go up to a 400 grit and clean up the edge, polish, refine that burr a little more, and that's as far as I go. A lot of people get crazy with those belts. It's not needed especially if you're doing not just woodworking, especially. And then you come back to a leather belt and loaded with the green compound that I just showed you. Put it on there. Strop that burr off, refine and polish the edge up, and you will have a razor sharp knife. All right, it just takes, all these techniques take a little practice, no matter what technique you're doing, short of getting like a controlled angle system and whatnot, which some are great, but they're very expensive, and this is very inexpensive in comparison. So hopefully that clears up how to put the edge back on my type of knives, or a lot of other knives too. And if you have any other questions, maybe we can make another video about it later. But that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.